Everything NYJ Podcast. I am your host, Liam. We have a very special guest, former New York Jets safety, Erik Coleman. Erik, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great, man. Excited about the season coming up and excited to chat with you.
Yeah, man. I once again just want to thank you for your time. I'm really honored that you're doing this for me. Really appreciate it. Um, so yeah, you were a NFL veteran. About 9 years you played, right?
hmm
Nice, nice. With the New
9
York
beautiful
Jets,
years.
2000.
It went by
What's
quick,
up?
too. I said it went by
Yeah, I
quick.
bet it does. I bet it does, man. 2004 to 2007 New York Jets. I remember just growing up watching you. Were always like one of my favorite players. Uh, Being a New York Jet and then just being in the NFL. What was that experience like for you, man?
The experience was amazing. Playing in the NFL, you grow up, uh, you know, looking up to all these players. When I was growing up, I'm from California and Washington State. So I was a 49ers fan growing up and, looking at Jerry Rice and Joe Montana and, having that dream of playing where they played come to fruition. It was really amazing. And I actually got a chance to play against Jerry Rice, a guy who was my favorite player growing up when I was a rookie with the Jets when he was with the Seahawks. So, it was just really a dream come true. I enjoyed every minute of it. I enjoyed the practice. I enjoyed the, working out. I enjoyed everything about it. It was just really an awesome experience.
Yeah, like you said, NFL not for long. It really must really have flown by for you. Um, but looking back from then to now in 2023, what are your overall thoughts on the 2023 Jets?
Oh man, I'm excited for the Jets. They have an amazing team. On paper, this team should be competing for a Super Bowl. Defensively, they've played well for the last couple of years. They've continued to get better on defense, and now adding Aaron Rodgers to the fold is going to do nothing but help this team. Garrett Wilson is a receiver who was rookie of the year last year, and he had a lot of inconsistent play at the quarterback position. So I'm excited to see what he does with a guy like Aaron Rodgers, a four-time MVP, Super Bowl champ. A guy who has played at the top of his game for most of his career. The offensive line, that was something that at the beginning of training camp you start to kind of wonder about. But now that you get close to the season, you start to see the offensive line start to gel and come to form. So I'm excited about pretty much every aspect of this team. They've got the attitude, they got the coaches. Joe Douglas has done a great job of putting the team together, and they've got a lot of leadership.
Yeah, definitely. And I kind of think back to like that 2009, 2010 team, even like during your time with the Jets. Like I think a contending team, you need a good combination of both veterans and young up and coming players. We have a lot of players on rookie contracts, as well as a couple veteran players where now is like really the time to cash in. Aaron Rodgers gave you 35 million back. You go out, you get Dalvin Cook, but you still have Sauce, you still have Garrett, you have ABT, all on rookie contracts.
Mhm.
Uh, Going out to acquire somebody like an Aaron Rodgers, like sometimes it still doesn't feel real to me. This is no doubt, maybe besides Joe Namath, and I think Aaron Rodgers is, no offense to Joe, but I think he's a lot better than Joe Namath. Probably the best quarterback the Jets have ever had. You played obviously with Chad Pennington. He was my childhood quarterback. I love Chad, but somebody like an Aaron Rodgers, what kind of impact can he have on the entire team? You being in that locker room, like if you were playing with somebody like an Aaron Rodgers of that caliber, or like one of your all-time favorites, Joe Montana, that's got to like amplify the way that you work out, the way that you do everything. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's exciting because when you play with greatness, it makes you step your level of play up. I was fortunate to play with a lot of great players throughout my career. I think about guys like Calvin Johnson. When you play
Yep.
with Calvin, you see his work ethic, you see what he puts into the game, and as a player, as a teammate of his, it just makes you want to raise your level of play. That there'll be times where you're studying, and you're like, man, let me put this playbook down, let me stop watching film, and then you're like, wait, what would Aaron do? What would one of the great players on this team do, and what does he expect of me? So it really makes you step your game up. He's a great leader. I've heard from day one he's been walking around quizzing guys. He holds guys accountable, and it's important to have someone on the team holding guys accountable rather than just coaches yelling at you. A guy who's going out there and performing and doing the same thing that you're doing. He's not asking you to do anything other than what he's doing right now. So I think it's going to make a great impact. And then when you look at the football aspect of it, he doesn't turn over the ball very much. He puts up a lot of points. He's going to extend drive. That's going to help the defense get rest. They're going to perform better. Offensively, if you can run the football and use the play action, he's a mobile quarterback who can get outside the pocket, create a lot of big plays. I mean, the sky's the limit for this team if they're able to capitalize on having a great player like Aaron Rodgers in the huddle.
That's the thing. I think back to like the Adam Gase era, where guys were really just going out there collecting a paycheck, not really caring. You have somebody like Aaron Rodgers, like you said, he holds everybody accountable. He's going out there, he's making sure that everybody is playing to their best that they possibly can. And like you said, he doesn't make many mistakes. And there's a fun fact that Aaron Rodgers is like 80 and 10 or something like that when a defense allows 18 points or less, and the New York Jets averaged only their defense averaged only about 18 points. But you think back to like a couple years ago, I remember they were playing the Philadelphia Eagles, and they were on the field. The defense was on the field for like 20 minutes. Like they just could not get off the field. Ideally, they will be playing with more leads this year, late into the fourth quarter, probably forcing more turnovers. That was like one of Sauce's biggest knocks. That he only had 2 interceptions this past season. But when you're on the field, you start to get gassed. I'm sure you know what that's like. But when it's late in the fourth quarter and a team is trailing by a touchdown or two or field goal, whatever it is, you're going to be passing the ball more. Should be able to force more turnovers. You agree?
Yeah, well, I'll touch on some of the things that you said. You talked about like the Adam Gase era and playing defense on a team like that. It is miserable playing on a team where you know that you're not going to generate points. All the pressure is on you on defense to keep the point spread low. You can't make any mistakes, and you're not ever going to play with the lead. And one of the biggest luxuries, besides having a great pass rush and getting after the quarterbacks, is playing with the lead. Playing from ahead when you get down to the fourth quarter, it changes your mindset as a defensive back, as a defensive lineman, completely as a player. I know me playing safety, when we had a lead going into the fourth quarter, there's situations where you're like, all right, they have to pass now. Now it's time for them. They don't have time to run the football. They've got to pass. Now the defensive line can turn up. They can get after the quarterback. Now guys like Sauce Gardner, guys like Jordan Whitehead, they can start jumping routes because they understand that the pass is going to come. They don't have to honor that play action. And it just really lets you play with your hair down, play with your hair on fire, and really go out there and make plays. So it's a big luxury. And another thing, when you have a guy like Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, he's going to extend drives. He's going to keep you off the field. One thing, during the Adam Gase era, during, eras where you don't have strong quarterback play or your offense isn't putting up points, as a defender, when you come off the field, there's nothing more debilitating than getting a 3-and-out or getting a turnover. You come down to sit down, you grab your Gatorade, and you're taking a sip of your Gatorade, and then it's like punt team up. And, you only got a couple of sips. You didn't get a chance to rest. You can't even gather your thoughts. You just have to go right back out on the field. So having a quarterback that's going to extend drives, put points on the board, is going to be a tremendous luxury for that defense.
Right, and like you said, like that must be like a miserable feeling because I don't personally believe that any team intentionally tanks. I mean, like you're seeing like the Cardinals are kind of going through it where they're having like a fire sale. The Buccaneers reportedly aren't playing for this season, but none of you NFL players are going out there and losing on purpose. But I think that there is a part of you guys where it's like, what's the point? Like you're not going out there giving it 100% because you know that really there's nothing coming out of it. You're making good tape for yourself, maybe hoping to get moved to like a different team or hoping that things will change once like a new head coach comes in. But like I don't think you guys are tanking necessarily ever.
Yeah, I
Do you
don't think
agree?
I know for a fact there's never a time, no matter how good or bad your team is, that guys are going out there and giving less than 100%. We understand that this game is not just play. You're not just playing for your team. You're playing for your honor. You're playing for your teammates. So I played on teams that weren't making the playoffs, and guys will go out there and give it their all. So it puts you in a tough position though when you understand you're going into a game, you don't have a chance to win. Your mindset completely changes when you have that confidence. When you know that when you put in a ton of work, you have the players, you have the dedication, you have the coaching scheme. There's a confidence that you walk into the stadium and you're like, I don't care who we're lining up against. We're going to knock them down. We're going to come out here with a win. And there's a big confidence that comes with that. When you're on the opposite side of that, it's not a great feeling. You understand you're going to be in for a dogfight, every single night. And it's going to take something great for you to have a chance to win.
Yeah, I agree with that. And that's kind of how I feel about this team. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that they're going to go 17-0. They have a very hard schedule, but there's not a single team that I don't think that the Jets could beat. I'm not saying they're going to beat every single one of them, but Buffalo, I'm not really worried about Buffalo. I understand they have a very good team, but they're having their flaws on defense too. I was actually listening to a podcast earlier at work, and one of the guys was saying that Josh Allen's going to have to put up 35 points. And it's like, I don't think the Jets defense is going to let you put up 35 points on them. But you look at like the Kansas City Chiefs, not saying the Jets are going to beat them, but I think that they give them a realistic chance that they can. I wouldn't be surprised if they did. There's not a single team that I'm afraid of. And like you said, you're just walking into that stadium saying, yeah, you know what, we're going to give you our best. We're going to give you that dog fight. That's got to be an amazing feeling. And it's so palpable because I've sat in MetLife Stadium. I've even sat in the old Giant Stadium at the Meadowlands. When I was a kid, that place was always rocking because it felt like each and every year the Jets had a chance. The last couple of years, not necessarily. I went back last year. I sat in the rain for the home opener, and then I went to that Thursday night game. I sat in the rain there. But the fans, they want to get loud. They want to be excited. I feel like for once, like this season, last season too, part of it, at least at the beginning, that place was rocking. I think it's going to be absolutely electric this season. You think that this season's going to be a lot different? Like, and not only that, do you guys feed off of that fandom, that loudness?
Yeah, I really do expect the energy to be crazy this year. I talked to the ticket sales guys earlier in the training camp, and they're like, we're getting close to selling out games that last year we didn't have, 60% of the tickets sold for. Fans are excited. Everyone's excited about this team. And when you make big plays, I'm going to go back to your point, talking about the fans just waiting to erupt. I remember games last year where the fans are just on the edge of their seat. They're waiting for a big play to happen. And, some games it just never would come. That's going to change this year. That's what happens when you bring in great players. I think that if the Jets can stay healthy, there's going to be a lot of big plays to be had. And as a player, when that crowd, when MetLife is rocking, man, there's no feeling like it. And that's, when people ask me, what are the things that you miss about the game? One of the things that I miss is my teammates. I miss my camaraderie. But there's nothing like having 100,000 people in a stadium, and you can make an impact on the way they feel. You go out there and make a big play, everybody stand up screaming. It's the best feeling in the world, and it's definitely hard to duplicate when you're done playing. But as a player on that field, it really does help you.
Yeah, definitely. And then with you being a defensive player, the offense is stacked right now. How would you attack this offense if you were playing against the New York Jets?
Man, well, as a defender, pretty much every game plan for every game that you play, it starts with stopping the run. You have to stop the run because if you allow a team to run the football on you, you leave yourself wide open for so many different things, for play action, for boots, for deep balls. And if you can stop the run and limit one thing and make them play, with one option, I think that really helps you as a team. But it's going to be hard to do that because of this offensive line. I mean, you look at the right side, Elijah Vera Tucker, Mekhi Becton on that right side. It's going to be tough for anyone to stop the run on the right side of this offensive line. But, look at the left, Dwayne Brown, Laken Tomlinson, those guys, this offensive line, if they can stay healthy, they're going to be a problem to deal with. And I think, everyone gets excited about Aaron Rodgers being here, but the run game is still going to be the main emphasis of this offense. Play action comes off that. Nice deep shots come off that. And I think stopping the run will be the number one. But then, after that, it's going to be tough because you got to play from the top down. You have to try not to allow any deep balls. But unfortunately, you have a quarterback on Aaron Rodgers that he doesn't just thrive off the deep ball. He can hit you. He can deke and dunk you down the field and do that all game. And, you'll just die from 1,000 cuts. So that's the luxury of having Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. So it's going to be tough for any defense to slow this offense down, especially with the tenacity that the Jets defense plays with. They're going to be forcing turnovers. They're going to be getting 3 and outs. They're going to be putting that offense in great position. So, if they can stay healthy, man, that's the only thing that I worry about, just health. I got my fingers crossed.
I do too, man. And if in years past it felt like as training camp and early on in the season, as it went on, players were getting injured more. It feels like now we're actually starting to get healthy for the first time in a long time. We have a fan question. Jets Turbulence Podcast says, question for Erik. How do you feel about the current safety room on the Jets?
I'm excited about the safety room. I think Marquand Manuel has done a great job with those safeties. Tony Adams is a guy who everyone's been talking about in training camp. He just plays the game the right way. He flies around. He's always prepared. He doesn't make many mistakes. And, I got the chance to talk to him at training camp, and, I just told him to keep up the good work. Just continue the grind, continue to play like your back is against the wall, because that's when your best shows. But Tony Adams has done a great job. Jordan Whitehead is a physical safety. Again, a guy who I just pray stays healthy because he can make a big impact on the back end. He's a good run stopper. He does a great job covering tight ends. And I think that he'll be a force back in the secondary. And then you have Adrian Amos, a guy who's been doing it for a very long time. He's a very good center field player. And I like the fact that the Jets are going to use all three safeties. Ashton Davis is a guy who's come in and played big minutes for the Jets. So I'm excited about that safety room. I love the secondary. There's not a lot of not too many weak links when you look at the secondary.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I do have a little bit of concerns with the safety position. It feels like ever since Jamal Adams and Marcus May left, like we kind of struggled to get like a really solid safety back there. The Tony Adams thing is interesting to me because he doesn't really have a lot of in-game experience. He only played a handful of snaps last year during the season. He didn't play much during the preseason this year. And I said it last year on Twitter each and every week that the safety position was a liability with Joyner and Whitehead. I think that there is a lot of upside to Jordan Whitehead, former Super Bowl champion with Tampa Bay. But I think I personally would like a little bit more experience back there. Adrian Amos, he has been hot and cold at times, especially with the Green Bay Packers. But I do think that there is a lot of upside there. And
Yeah, I
then
don't I
getting
don't
into
think
the
I don't think the experience is as much as people play it out to be, especially when you're playing at that safety position. All these guys are going to be well coached by Marquand. And when you talk about playing safety, the number one thing that you have to have is good eyes. You have to have good discipline. You have to be seeing the right things. And having a coach that played the game at a high level, hey, he has done nothing but reinforce those values in these guys. I think you'll be surprised when you see week one, the little safeties flying around making a lot of plays.
I hope so, man. I hope so. We have a second part question here. And with the linebacker room being the weakest part of the defense, what would you do as a safety to protect the middle with the Kelseys of the world?
Well, and I know that they're the weakest. They're the weakest link that you could look at on paper, but that doesn't mean that they're bad. These guys are
Right,
are,
right.
are certified ballers. C.J. Mosley, All Pro middle linebacker. Quincy Williams is a guy who's flown around the field for the last couple of years and earned that contract that he received. So, Sherwood, another athletic guy. So I think these guys are they get discredited because of how great that defensive line is, how great the secondary is, and talking about Sauce Gardner, they get the short end of the stick. But I don't think the linebacker position is much of a step down from the rest of those guys. But playing against a Travis Kelce, uh, the tough part about playing against a tight end like Travis Kelce is yes, he runs great routes, but everybody runs great routes. The problem is Patrick Mahomes extending plays when he gets outside of the pocket. When everyone's it's hard to cover a guy for 5-6 seconds. Is damn near impossible. So if your defensive line can get after the quarterback and you can cover Travis Kelce on his initial route, that's going to be the key to slowing that down.
Yeah. Is there any comparisons from your Jets team to this Jets team?
Any comparisons? I mean, I always look at defense, right? And
Hmm.
when I played, we had Revis. We had Revis on one side of the ball, and he was a guy who, when I was playing in the middle of the field, I could start off leaning towards Revis, knowing that on the snap, I'm going to help out everyone else because he had it on lock. And that's the kind of luxury that you have with the Sauce Gardner. He's a guy who you don't really have to worry about in coverage. He's a guy who can lock guys down. He's not going to give up big plays. Teams are going to throw away from him, and you can help everyone out. But I think that another comparison, maybe the defensive line. We had a very strong defensive line when I was there. You talk about throughout the years, Sean Ellis, John Abraham, Dwayne Robertson was a guy who can get after the quarterback. And that's the ultimate luxury. That's one of the greatest luxuries you can have as a secondary. When you're back in coverage on third down and you're worried about combination routes and you're communicating, and then all of a sudden you look back at the quarterback and he's on the ground, that's the best feeling in the world. So I think if I had any comparison, it would be that defense with the strong defensive line, with the shutdown corner, because that's a unicorn. You can't find those. They're very hard to find. So they're tough. They fly around, and they're a physical unit, just like we were back in the day.
Yeah. And obviously you played under Herm Edwards, especially early on in your career. Eric Mangini as well. Between those head coaches and like Robert Saleh, do you see like a lot of comparisons there? Like what are your thoughts on the coaching staff overall with the Jets compared from then to now?
Well, it's funny, like playing with Herm, he was a fiery coach just like Coach Salah.
Right.
As a defender, you're gonna fly around for him, you're gonna play with your hair on fire. It's kind of funny because the offensive coordinator was Paul Hackett, Nathaniel's
Yeah.
dad. So that was that's kind of a crazy comparison. But the coaching staff is similar to Herm Edwards' coaching staff, where everybody is cool. Everybody they're going to get after it. They want you to win. They're excited to watch you thrive, and you can feel that energy when you go to practice. These coaches are excited about their players. They're excited about coaching these guys, and they really believe in them. So there's a lot of comparisons in that way. When Mangini came, things were a little different. Things were a little different. The mindset of the head coach, kind of changed everything. It wasn't as exciting and fun as when we played with Herm, but at the same time, X's and O's wise, Eric Mangini was one of the best coaches I played for. He had you prepared for all kinds of situations. Your knowledge of the game kind of helped elevate you as a player.
Yeah, definitely. And then of course you have the famous quote, "You play to win the game" from Herb, one of the greatest of all time. So the Jets actually, I'm sure you've been watching Hard Knocks. They said that they weren't going to be showing any cuts on TV because it was kind of inhumane. Joe
Mhm.
Douglas being in that seat before, where he was actually the guy that had to cut people. They show Jerome Cap getting cut, but we saw even like Kuntz, we saw a couple other like draft picks like in the past actually get cut, be back to the practice squad. You were a fifth round draft pick. Not saying that you were ever in consideration for getting cut, but what is the locker room feeling on cut day? Like is players like a little different on edge? Like what is that feeling like?
Yeah, it's different now because it all happens on one day. So
Right.
when I was playing, it was kind of phases. After I want to say the second preseason game, you start seeing guys get shipped out, and I'll never forget seeing one of my teammates during warmups of a practice get escorted off the field because he got cut. Um,
Yeah.
you instantly realize how much of a business this is, and it's tough because you come from college where it's all about team, it's all about unity, brotherhood, and all this. But when you're in the NFL, it's not a surprise to come in to your meeting room on Wednesday after a game and have somebody new sitting right next to you. It's a tough part of the game, but it keeps you on your square and it keeps you working to make sure that you're playing at your highest level.
Right. And I've heard stories, especially back with the 2 day practices, like a player will be here in the morning and then, you guys go to lunch, you come back and he's gone.
Yep.
So
That, yeah,
that's a
that'll
little
happen.
crazy too.
That happened way too often, man. It was definitely tough, and it did change the mindset because you're sad for guys. You see guys throughout training camp, and you root for them. There's some underdogs. You know that they're an underdog and that they're balling in practice, and then you see them in the preseason game, and maybe it wasn't as good as they were doing in practice. So you don't know when the cut day comes, and everyone cheers for their guys to thrive, and it's sad seeing them go. You're talking about guys who worked as hard as they could. This is the dream of theirs to make it to training camp and to not make that final roster it's a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah, it's somebody literally saying you're not good enough when all their life they have probably been the best player at their school, one of the top players in their college. All they've ever done in their life was really succeed. And then you get
Mm-hmm.
where everybody is almost, I mean, you have the elite players, but for the most part, especially early on in your career, you guys are all pretty much on one level. And then for him to say that you're better than him, so you're gone, like that's got to be a heart, I don't know, gut wrenching feeling. I mean, I've never been there, but
Oh,
I
it's
could
not
only
good.
imagine.
One of the worst feelings you could go through. I've been cut. Well, I asked for my release from the Falcons, but I got cut from Detroit. At the end of my career, and you talk about a tough pill to swallow. Everything that you ever worked for is just gone. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, but it's a part of the game. It's listen. If everybody could make it, it wouldn't be as great of a game as it is. So.
Right. And like once that happens, like I don't need unless you're willing to share. I don't really need your personal experience, but like what goes to your mind? Like what next? Like do you go like apply for like a job somewhere? Like what do you do?
Well, most guys go back to the drawing board. They go back to where they were training in the off season. They want to stay in shape because a lot of times these guys do get other calls from different teams. And when you
Right.
get that opportunity, or whether it's you get cut in training camp or something, maybe it's week 3. another team calls you for a workout. You got to be in shape. You got to be prepared for that opportunity. So it's discouraging, but you can't let it get you down. You can't let it break you down, because there's been plenty of guys who didn't make training camp rosters who have come back to make an impact on the regular season. So, until you're ready to hang them up, sometimes guys hang on too long. But within that season, you're going to be working, trying to accomplish your goal of playing in the NFL.
Yeah, right. And then once you were playing in games, did you have like a specific pregame like ritual? I mean, like I know me, like go and like watch the game, like I'm going to get a case of beer, I'm getting the pizza, the chips ready, this and that. As a player, what is that like? What is your pregame ritual? Did you have one?
My pregame ritual, I would I'd probably eat the same thing, for breakfast. Usually we played 1 o'clock games, so I eat my eggs and I had some pasta and some chicken, just a bunch of stuff to fuel me throughout the day. Then I'll be heavy on the music, heavy on the slow jams like D'Angelo. I always needed something to calm me down, because when you're pulling up to the stadium and you see all the fans barbecuing and partying and celebrating, your heart just races, and it's just a really exciting, really intense moment. So I try to calm myself down as much as I could. Go out to the field, try to visualize. I do a lot of visualization in my locker room or out in the field. But I don't know if I can say I had like a real routine. I think my routine was staying away from a routine, because I didn't want to have anything impact the way that I played. So you get your ankles taped. I had to get an IV before every game, and just the basic things, just to make sure that I'm mentally and physically prepared to go out here and go to battle.
Right. You weren't like one of those guys like writing on your wrist tape at 12:02 every day, getting ready for the 1 o'clock game. Yeah,
Nah.
some people are very like that.
No, I would say my prayers. I say my prayers. I would read through my playbook one last time. You know what I mean, and let it loose. Let it loose.
There you go, man. Appreciate that. So before we like let you go, I have a couple more questions quickly though. One of like my things with the New York Jets, because like I haven't been to their new training camp facility out in Jersey yet, but I used to go to Hofstra. I used to go to Cortland all the time as a kid. It feels like there's really not like a lot of like New York left like in the New York Jets. Like they don't really come out here often.
Mm-hmm.
Do you miss like going to like Hofstra and like Cortland and like that kind of stuff? And what was that? Because it seems like it was a much smaller environment, much more like fan oriented. Do you have like any cool experiences with that, or like any moments that really stick out to you from
Yeah,
training camp?
so during my years of the Jets, we were at Hofstra. The year I believe it was a year after I left and went to Atlanta that the Jets moved to New Jersey. But I still live on Long Island. I still
Yeah.
drive by Hofstra, and I get the chills because I think about training camp and going through practice. Long Island, New York is a very huge fan base for the Jets, and
Right.
it's kind of sad, to see that be abandoned. You wish that they could, get back out to New York a little more often, but it just there's just no better feeling. There was all the bars and restaurants down the street from
Right.
Hofstra, that we used to always frequent. The restaurants that we go to, I'll still go to them every once in a while. You still have friends that own those restaurants, so. It was really a family unit, and I'm sure it's the same way in New Jersey for the players. But I remember when I was a rookie, after practice one day, it was like Wayne Corbett, Sean Ellis, Eric Barton, a couple other guys. They were like, come on, Rook, we're going to go grab something to eat. And we would go over to Houston's at Roosevelt Field, sit
Yeah.
down at the bar, have a couple of the drinks, have something to eat. And I remember the guys just telling stories and telling war stories about what they've been through. And I would just soak it up like a sponge, man. Just
Yeah.
enjoy listening to all their knowledge that they had for me. And I think that really helped me grow and really helped me extend my career, because I learned how to be a pro from listening to these guys' stories and from following their examples.
Yeah. I agree, man. Like I'm living on Long Island too, so like I used to go to Hofstra all the time. I remember like one of my first times there. Um, I just remember being like 5 years old and like like my dad's picking me up and like I'm like waving him Mangold. He's coming over, and then as I got older, I went the Hard Knocks year too. And I remember I don't know why,
Mm-hmm.
but I was hanging out like with the cheerleaders the whole time. I missed the entire practice pretty much, and I go back up and it's like over, So
Yeah.
a lot of great memories there though, man. So before we let you go, do you have like a record prediction for the season? What are you thinking?
Ooh, that's all right. Record prediction. It's always hard for me because they play 17 games now. I
Yeah.
would say, listen, the first what 6 or 7 games is a gauntlet for the Jets. You know, it's going to be tough, but let me see, barring injury or anything crazy happening, I don't think there's any reason why the Jets can't win 12 games. I think 12-5 would be a great record. If they win 13, that's great. They win 11. All I'm really interested in is them getting into the tournament, because I know when they get into the tournament, anything can happen. You know, I played for the Falcons. We won the NFC South. We played the Green Bay Packers when they had to have a team lose to get in to the playoffs. They were a wild card team. Aaron Rodgers was the quarterback. They came through Atlanta, and they went through the league like a hot knife through butter and ended up winning the Super Bowl that year. So, you know, I think the team has what it takes to make an impact once they get into the playoffs, and it's just going to be about getting in.
Right, right. So before we let you go, where can people find you, and like what are you up to these days? Can people like check you out anywhere, or?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still working with the Jets.
Hmm.
I work on I'm on MSG Networks. You know, I have a nice football show coming up this season, and you can follow me on my social media at Erik Coleman on Instagram, Twitter, or X, whatever it's called.
Yeah, I know
You know,
it's
follow
weird.
me on Facebook. You know, come check me out. I try to keep everybody abreast of what I got going on.
Yeah, definitely. I'm always checking it out. Can't wait for your new show coming up. Eric, I just wanted to thank you for your time, man. Really appreciate it. Thank you for coming out, being able to do this, man.
Oh, thanks for having me. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, you too, man. All right, thank you guys for watching. This is going to conclude episode 98 of the Everything NYJ podcast. Talk Jets soon.